Hey, Chad here with DevNitro.com, and today I got something special. It's the first of the year. I want to create some goals for the year, and so what better way than create an app to create goals? No, it's just a little demo I'm going to do here to show off Dev Nitro. Currently, it's in alpha, and I'm opening up for just a few people to be able to get access to this. And so you fill out an application, and even if you don't want access to the alpha, if you want access to beta, jump on the list because the people inside of alpha will be the first to get it in the beta. But anyway, just go devnitro.com and you can fill that out. The whole point is to create .NET apps that are production ready. And that's what this thing's going to do. So this little demo is like not really a business use case, obviously, to create goals and create rocks for the goals, but you know, it's just something to kind of show off first of the year. Here we are on January the 3rd. So let's jump in. So basically I have a folder here and there's nothing in it. So I'm just gonna kick off Dev Nitro and let it run. So this CLI, it's much like Claude Code. It's actually a terminal UI, TUI. And so right now I'm just actually give it some information. So I'm gonna bring up the microphone, I'm gonna talk to it. I want you to create an app for me that tracks my goals for the year. I segment my goals with the overall annual goal and then the 4 rocks that make up that goal, 1 rock per quarter. Cool. Might help actually did a period instead of that. I did. Okay, so once you created an app for me, tracks goals, looks good. Yeah. So we'll let it run. So what we're going to see on the left-hand side is it talking. So it's actually creating the site. So it failed. So chances are it needs to pass in more information. Realize that, and so it's going to go and execute that this time. So that's good. On the right-hand side, we see more details of actually what's occurring, and we actually see the files are there. So I'll bring up another tab here. Let's see. This was what that. And we see all the files are there now that weren't there before. And in fact, I'll go ahead and just open up Visual Studio. Looks like called a goal tracker. Bring up the solution file. And so that's good. We'll pull this down, take up the whole screen. And while I was doing this, I'm going to go and create the local repository just as it's creating it before it does a whole lot of work. All right, so that'll get going. We'll go back to the CLI and see what it's doing here. All right, so it looks like it's been reading stuff. I have an actual web UI here I'll show off. And so I believe is, yeah, we're in conversation 142. So this is just reading from disk. Here we are at 5 o'clock on Saturday, January the 3rd. And so we kick it off, start at 5 o'clock is when I did the chat. And it's saying it tried to create site, didn't work out. So then it decided to call the tool itself directly, which is fine. I wonder why it messed up on the create site itself, because it just didn't pass in appropriate information. That's right. All right, so either way, we will let it keep on cooking here. But I find it really good to be able to see the tool calls and everything in this view. Ultimately, I will have a web UI that you can chat with, and it'll just go talk to a Docker container. You can talk to a Docker container currently if you desire instead of your local space. But with CLI, by default, it goes to your local hard drive. I apologize for my light. It's like flipping out on me, but if it does that, you know, sorry. So it looks like it's going through, it's reading a bunch of stuff. Now I can expand all just so we can kind of see what's doing here. Good. So it's determining all the different files it needs to create by looking at existing stuff. So that's good. We will take a look over here. On the left-hand side, it's more of a compact view, and I can just like do F2 so that takes up the full screen. And we can kind of see the compact view, and it says, okay, well, it executed the shell of .NET Restore. But if I hit F3, I can actually see the more details about that. And so it's very much similar to what we're seeing over here, where we'll scroll up some, and let me just find where it said. Yeah, so it's good, uses SLX format, so it figured that out. And then it restored what we just saw there. And now, in fact, we'll go all the way down here to the bottom. It was like it's creating the annual goal SQL file. So that's good. And then it's creating the rocks. So that's good. And so we'll just see how it cooks here. And in fact, so we're currently iteration 36. I do have some checks in here automatically stop it after a particular run currently. I won't do that ultimately, especially tool calls. Like if it does like 15 tool calls in a row, I'll kind of stop it, and then I'll let it continue once I evaluate, see what all it's doing. But for the most part, it can just run and it can do its thing. And it basically have this agentic loop that goes in and kind of forces it to continue even when it thinks it's done. And I've seen some decent results from that. And only when it's like, no, I'm really done, is when I'll let it stop. Unless we get into this notion of in a single run, it's just, doing tons and tons of things. But so far, it's still running. It hasn't stopped or anything. We are on, message number 90, right? So it's been doing thing. Has 2 different tool calls here, creating an annual goal store, and we can go here with a get changes. Since I did the initial commit, we can see it's added all these files, these new files, and it's modified existing table and schemas. So we had tables for user settings and wait list entries. It kind of comes with it, and now so it made one called annual goals and one called rocks, because it actually created these SQL files. I'm not using Entity Framework, so instead of using Entity Framework, I utilize Dapper, and I use the store here. So we can take a look at the annual goal store, see how it did, make sure it did right, and it did good. And so basically, I use string interpolation. First, I have this working, so you can work with SQL Server, SQLite, or Postgres. And I have it with this whole UOW, unit of work table, will send that to the appropriate provider correctly. So we'll send it, with brackets, square brackets to SQL Server. It will do an underline between the schema and the table name for SQLite, because SQLite doesn't have schemas. And it uses quotes for Postgres, right? So either way, that's that whole UOW table. So it knows what that, and same thing with UOW column, it puts that. But the string interpolation that we have lets me know right away if my table names and my column names broke between what was actually in the database. Because right now, of course, utilizing AI, LLMs, it knows exactly what it is, so it just updates them both. But before, when I was doing that for a bunch of my clients and things, I'd simply run these T4 templates that would go read my database and then update my tables.g.cs. That's why it's called that, because it's generated, and schemas. Therefore, this would always get whatever was in my SQL proj, basically. And then if a store needed to be updated, because it was talking, we renamed it from success to success criteria, it would fail until I renamed it to success criteria. So Entity Framework's great, but I find I've gotten bit by it where it's doing, when I try to do complex queries, it'll trip over itself. The biggest problem I've ever had with Dapper in the past was when you had to pretty much hard code the SQL inside of, C#, and it's like, well, that's no good. But since C# 6, like in 2016 or so, we've had string interpolation in the name of value. And those two things combined is why I kind of follow this pattern. So I find that's beneficial. Anyways, we'll go and see how it's still working here. It's still processing. We can see it's still processing down here. I want to add a little animation, a little icon animation so it spins so it catches the eye. But ultimately, if you see this processing, then it's still working. And we'll go take a look at the better UI here on the web side, so it's easier to see at least. I say better UI, it's just different UI, but easier to see. So yeah, so it's actually creating the goal service now. So that's good. And I don't know if it's created the controller yet or not. Probably not. Yes, it's created the store. Now it's doing the service, and then after that, I'm sure it'll probably do the controller next. So that's good. So let's go take a look at Visual Studio again. And great. So under goals, it created the goal service and iGoal service, and that goals controller just showed up. So that's great. So, you know, it's jamming through, generating a bunch of code for us, which is fantastic. And then it's going to update the startup goal tracker. That's our startup file. So it actually, you know, registered the services, right? So it says, hey, we have a annual goals store, we have a rock store, we have a goal service, and it's, you know, creating all those, which is great. Of course, these are just usings for it. Let's see what else it's doing here. Looks like it's doing the imports. It's gonna read the imports, figure out what it needs to write, and then it's probably going to write the actual file itself, the Razor file. And we're coming close to 50, and I think 50 is where I have it. It'll stop. So we'll see. In which case, I'll just tell it to continue if that's the case, or if it does, I think 15 tool calls in a row. Without doing anything else. I think it stops then. And all this stuff is configurable. I did notice it's not kicked off any subagents. I do have subagents in here. So I have a special one for SQL to actually generate the SQL files. I have one for Dapper to actually do those stores. Regular one for C#, one for test. You know, we actually have test over here, so we get some built-in tests. I could have it create some tests if I want to, but the test it has is just like the built-in user settings and wait list. Because again, this has authentication and everything built in out of the box using, of course, the Microsoft's identity stuff. So let's take a look at the web bit. So it's reading the imports as well as doing. So it's taking a while because it's probably writing. Once it reads, usually what it does turns around and now it's going to write the actual probably home.razor, but it may actually create a goals.razor and then link from home to there. We'll see. We'll see what it does. Sometimes it'll update it homes directly. Other times, because it sees that, it'll see that it's blank. But I don't know if it read home yet. Yeah, I don't think it read home. I think it just read the imports. And so I think it's probably just going to create the goals at that point. So let's go take a look. Make sure it's still churning, and it'll probably create quite a few characters on there because it seems that the actual data here is a decent amount, right? So it has the year, the title, description, category, status, progress, notes, and then for the rock itself, for the individual things, it has the quarter, title, description, whether it's successful or not, progress, target date, completed date. So it's like you want a goals app, man. I'm going to create you a goals app, and it's going to go off and create something awesome here. So yep, those like goals.razor showed up. And so it's taking a little bit because it, you know, it churned all that. So let's go take a look at the thing here. So it's reading the nav menu, figure out how to shove it into the nav menu, which is great. But yeah, so it wrote out 18,000 characters when it created the goals razor. So that's good. And yeah, so it's reading nav. Now it's going to go through and either write nav or hopefully it'll just edit nav. We'll see. All right. Let's see if the IDE is giving us any kind of warnings or errors or anything. So far, it seems like everything's pretty clean with it, which is good. I can go ahead and build, actually. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to build and just kind of get a head start for where things are at and how things are looking. All right, so we got, yeah. So it thought that success, it thought the success response has an ID property. It does not. So chances are, if it needs that ID, now well, it gets in created. So it should be able to just use the created ID. Oh, okay, no. It uses the created, but if it doesn't, then it tries to do a response ID, but there won't be one. So it really shouldn't even bother writing that out, but that's fine. We'll just see what it does here. So task completed. We see it's no longer processing. Let's go look at the web UI. And let's see where it finished out at. So yeah, so just add the navigation link, list the directory, read the file. Doesn't look like it actually did. So I think what happened, I think we hit the 50 thing. Yeah, max iterations 50. So we hit max iterations 50, and we're like, yeah, you're done, which is fine. So let's see. So far, well, we started this thing right at 5 o'clock, and right now it is 5:12. So in 12 minutes, quite a few things created. So again, this is using the Opus 4.5 model using Claude Code. And again, this works with Claude Code, Claude API. It works with OpenAI's API. It works with OpenAI's Codex. They work differently, but if you're using Claude Code behind the scenes or using Codex behind the scenes, you can use your subscription, which is nice. Uses Ollama. You can use Ollama. It's not as good, but you can use it locally. And the one I've had the best success with is the GPT OSS. But either way, well, good. Let's tell it. Let's give it some hints here as far as where things are at. So this is done. So I could tell it to build, but instead of wasting tokens of you having to build, I'll typically build and just tell it where it has some errors. And so right now the big thing is success response. And in fact, I just don't think I'm going to bother with it. I think I'm just simply going to delete that because the ID is not even needed anyway. Because it's not like it's being used, right? He's just setting it, but he's using the created ID. He wasn't even using the response ID anyway. So, all right. So we'll compile that again. We'll give the LLM a break for that. Cool. All right. We'll go back since it compiled. And in fact, since it compiled, and we have goals here, did it actually update the? Yeah, that's right. It said it was going to update, but it didn't. So say, I'll just say continue. Hopefully I'll realize where it left off because again, we hit that max iteration. So I'll just tell it to continue and we'll see how it does. Let's go back to this. So what I'm expecting to do, hopefully, is it's going to realize that it didn't actually create the nav bar, didn't edit it. So it reread it, which is good. And now it's going to hopefully go and actually modify the nav bar layout. And so it sees that horizontal is one we're using. We can actually use a vertical one on the left-hand side or horizontal above. This particular one's using horizontal. It sees that, and so it's going to go and modify that. But it failed modifying it because something didn't quite match. So it's rereading it. Probably some white space problems or something of that nature. And once it rereads, I'm assuming it'll try and edit it again. Again, it's kind of a minor, oh, it failed again. So it's interesting. Usually that doesn't happen, but okay, it did that time. So I don't know, it just got choked up a little bit, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I kind of have my own read tool, my own edit tool, my own write tool. And I currently force it. If it tries to do an edit, then I tell it has to do a read first. Sometimes it's a little much. Like sometimes it'll read and it'll have to read it again, even if nobody else has made any changes to it. All right, but anyway, so okay, so it's actually going to try to build, and the build succeeded. That's good. Saw that succeeded, and now what's doing? So it's going to update the home page, showcase the goal features. So that's good. So it's seeing there's nothing in the home page, and so we'll see how it's going to do that. Whether it's going to just modify the goals to be a home route, or if it's actually going to put an actual link here on there. Take a look at the CLI, see it's still processing, everything's fine here, only iteration 10. And I don't think there's been, there's definitely not been 15 tool calls in a row, I don't think. Let me click on my user up here. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so we should be good. Yep, all right. Oh, it wants to do the migration. So let's see if it actually does the migration. I prefer that it didn't because it's going to use up all of its stuff. So I'm actually going to, yeah, it's going to run, but it's going to use up all of its context window because this migration, I explicitly told it not to do a migration in the agents, but I guess it's kind of done, forgot about that. Because it just does a ton of output. And it probably did SQLite in general, and which is fine. But typically when I'm doing stuff, I prefer to go to SQL Server. So anyway, we'll just let it do its things. And while I was doing that, I'll actually take a look at our, so you see we have an app DB here being created. But I'm going to go to our app settings. You see it's actually using SQLite. I'll change that to SQL Server here. I'm going to let it kind of finish its thing out. Yeah, prompt too long. So once it gets to that point, it runs up because this thing is absolutely huge, just huge amounts of output as it builds the DAC file and does all kinds of comparisons and does a bunch of stuff. And so, yeah. So I explicitly, and ultimately I do want it to do the migrations like this, but for now I don't, because which I mean, it was almost out of context space anyway, to be fair, because we were already up at, message 159. But still, I'd prefer if I hadn't done that, but it's all good. So I'm going to stop with the live update because it doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to go back over here. This is done. And I'm going to export the chat. And so we got the chat exported. And what this actually exported was the details. It also exported the logs, which isn't super beneficial. But, it can be beneficial for something that's kind of buggy for me for now. But ultimately, there won't be any logs to view or export. It's more like a building thing for me at the moment. But yeah, so anyway, I export it, so now I'm going to exit it. And we'll start up again with another conversation. I'll go to 143 here. And we'll let it update. And again, all this is doing is looking for a file. The next conversation, it's going to read that. All right, but at this point, I don't know if I actually want to give it anything new because it tried to do the migration. And in fact, it did a migration. It created this app DB. That's fine. But I prefer for it to do SQL Server. I haven't actually tested the SQLite bit in a little bit, and there could have been some stuff I've changed in the last few days that could have broken that. And so I'm not going to sit here and try to debug all that in case it is an issue. I'm just going to be preemptive here and say, well, we're going to use SQL Server. And our default connection is going to be this. I'm actually just change the database to whatever this is, Goal Tracker. Goal Tracker. Goal Tracker. We'll change all the stuff to Goal Tracker. Yeah. All right. Great. And then in the actual database migration as well, over here under Tools, Database Migration Tool, I'm going to do the same thing here. So Goal Tracker. Thank you very much, Copilot. Appreciate it. So yeah, so that's fine. Right. So let's go back here. Let's go here. I'm going to go into the Goal Tracker migration tool called .NET Run, passing in the environment type of local. Trying to make sure there's nothing else I want to do. Let me go check my I'm trying to find. I got my camera right in the way here, so can't see my taskbar. Okay, great. I what I call the database's goal tracker. So if I don't have a goal tracker database, trying to make sure I didn't. Yep, no. So let's go back up here and we'll actually run the migration. So this is what it ran the first time. Of course, it's using SQLite. And well, that one wasn't back. I think it probably ran like verbose or something too, because it really wasn't that much text as much as I got. But either way, it created it. So now I'm expecting over here, and I'll bring this to my screen here in just a second. I'm expecting for us to see goal tracker, and it didn't because I've left it on SQLite. So change that to SQL Server. Run it again. All right, now that's built, we will go and run that one more time. Because my guess is it actually created the, goal tracker DB, because it was still creating the SQLite. I didn't change that up here. And I'll just get rid of the original app DB too, because it doesn't matter. We'll go back and see if it's running here, and it failed with a connection to SQL Server. Why is that? Why is that? Oh, because I didn't change the connection. I was in a hurry, ended up causing more effort than I should have. So database provider, SQL Server, default connections, SQL Server. Let me confirm I did that up here in the settings. I did not. Same issue here. So change that as well. All right. Recompile, which that just affects the website portion when you actually run it. It's not a good demo if it everything works first time around. So what's happening now is it's actually running all the schema comparison on the core objects, and then it's also turning around after creating the core objects, things like users, emails. There's quite a few core tables. So it creates those, and then it goes and creates the local sites, and it does foreign key constraints across both of them. All right, so that's created now. Everything's fine. Now I'm expecting to see the database in SQL Server here. And there it is. So let me hit new query and pull this over here. So we're going to say, let's see, select everything from, I don't know, we'll say core.users. And then I'm also going to say select UTC, the date time there. And we can see that 103.22.26 and 103.22.27, right? So that was created for now. And if we say, I think it was probably like select everything from site.goals, probably annual goals, okay? Site annual goals. And I don't know if he just called it rocks, site.rocks, yeah, site.rocks. So there we go. Okay, great. So that is done. I'm going to run it, and we'll go back over here to our, I'll pull this in as it's running here, and it'll come up over here. So that's great. Okay. UI needs a little bit of help, just needs a little extra thing here. But hey, like it created a nice little UI for us here. Go to my goals, get started, sign in. So I can sign in and go to authentication if I want to. I'm going to see if I can do it without it. So it may require, since it did the full thing, it may actually require user ID. That would make sense for full-fledged stuff. So yeah, so expecting user ID. So that'll be fine. Let's I'm doing demo more than I was planning, but that's all right, because Opus is like, oh, we're gonna make an app. You want an app? I'm gonna make a full-fledged app. So that's good. So I'm gonna come over here to our functions and modify my functions so I can actually do email. Let's see. Problem is I need to set up my key for this. So I'm going to, I don't want to do that right now. It'll be a little bit too much of a headache to do that. But basically you come in to your settings, and you'd set up your region, and then you'd use like user secrets, or if you're obviously hosting this in Azure, you go set up your environment variables inside of your container up there to set up your, Azure AWS SES key for your emails. And of course, it will need to actually talk to your email, so you need to make sure you update your database here to be the right thing, SQL Server with the same, and I think it's actually still on my clipboard. Well, it already knows what I want anyway, so I'll let Copilot do that. But again, I'm not going to do this right this second, so I'll just kind of update the database to do the other part of it. So let me go to my goals, and I'm going to create a new account. Okay. All right, so it's telling me to go check my email. Of course, it's not going to send an email. I'll put it in the queue, but I'm not running the actual thing here. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to go to the database and look at my core users here. And I'm going to update. So update core.users. And I'm going to set is email confirmed equal to 1. Your ID is equal to 2. Might help if I put a space there. All right. So now that that's done, I should be able to come back in here and go to my goals, sign in now. Okay. Must be forgetting something else. Everything from core.users. Oh, howdy at howdy. I did the wrong email address. It's kind of hard to sign in when you don't use the right email address. So, oops. Go to my goals. Great. So now I'm actually authenticated, and I'm logged in, so I can get here and it doesn't try to log me in. So that's good. So create my first goal. My first goal is improve physical health. That was a good one. And health, save. Great. Oh, looks like the LLM had an issue with our quarters here. So I'm going to go and modify. I could just go find real quick this and modify. It's a very typical thing where it doesn't play nice with the razor parser. Needs that. So when you're doing, it thinks it's an email address, like what is it? So you just put parentheses around it and all that's fine. So we'll close that and go back to here. Still building down here, we can see. Okay, and it refreshed. Failed to load goals. Okay, really? Why is that, I wonder? Request to match multiple endpoints. Okay. Oh, gotcha. I just made, right before I started recording, I added in another error page called 403, but I did not change the path on that guy. So that is my fault. That could have been the issue we were seeing before. So let me do that and recompile. That had nothing to do with the changes we were just doing. That was just because of my core code here. I added in a 403 error page. And yeah, so now we got 401 does not indicate success, which is fine. Failed to load goals. We'll refresh this. Doesn't like the authorization policy. Something's broke. Something's broke with my authentication. Okay. I'm just going to pass this in back to Dev Nitro and say, hey, we got an issue. we are working on a goals app. Currently, when loading, we get this error in the browser console. And we'll send that. And we'll go over here. And great, it's already selected live, so it's finding it. It's going to investigate it for us, so that'll be fine. We'll see if it actually doesn't look like it did the tool call correctly the second time around. Let's see here. The issue is clear. The client project using an authorized view component, but the authorization services aren't registered. Authorized view is used in multiple places. Fixes add authorization services to the WebAssembly client. Should already be there. Should already be there. It says the fix is in place. Oh, no, the file. Okay. So, client program. Let's go take a look. See what happened. So, client program. Add authorization core. So we didn't have anything. I thought that would have done it, but maybe it didn't do it soon enough. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. And we will stop this running. Therefore, when it tries to compile, it'll be able to. Okay. All's good. Now it succeeds, it says. So let us recompile. And run it. And we'll let it open up over here. Cool. All right. So we want to sign in. All right, we're signed in. We'll go to our, oh, nope. So we'll give it the next one because obviously there's something else missing. The reason I'm struggling right now is because I thought I'd fixed this before, but obviously I did not, because you shouldn't have to run into anything like this, but you know, it is what it is. Like I said, they say if you're not embarrassed, then you wait too long to ship. So there you have it. Let's see here. We'll just paste in that error. And we will stop the run, so if it decides to compile, it can. I thought for sure I had already had that registered, but apparently not. It happens. Wouldn't be a demo if everything went perfectly right. All right, so let's go take a look at what it's saying here. So adding those should solve it. I thought I had that in a in the global cove configuration, truthfully. So I'll have to look at that and figure that out. So hopefully you shouldn't have to do that. But anywho, let's get back to this. Go back to here. Did I don't think I actually ran the thing. I think I just compiled it. So let me run it. So it's bringing it up. Things, but so we see the improved physical health is active. And we can edit it, see our information, cancel to add a rock. Okay. So you know what? Run a 5K. I'm totally not gonna run a 5K. Totally not gonna run a 5K. But eat better. You can always eat better. And target date. Well, target date's going to be the quarter. So I should have the habit built in by then. Save. So yeah, I'm gonna hit 5 and just confirm everything loads. Yep. So we got quarter 1, quarter that. So either way, everything's great until the end. Kind of had a little bumpiness there. But if it wasn't for the bumpiness, so this the last part here was about 7 minutes from 5:43 until 5:50, and current time is what, 5:53. So if it wasn't for that, then I think we would have had this done. Let me go back to the previous chat here. Previous chat finished in 5:20, and then wasted 23 minutes almost, and the next one did it in 7 minutes. So we'll say less than a half an hour, and we have an app. If I didn't have my bugs in there with the registering the persistent service on the client and the authentication, you wouldn't have had the issue. But I think founder of LinkedIn says that if you not embarrassed with what you're shipping, then you're shipping too late. So there you go. A little bit of embarrassment would be all right. If this is something that interests you, to get on the ground floor and see how this could help you create your code faster, get things shipped, then definitely fill out that application, because I am much more productive now that I'm using Dev Nitro than I have been with any other tool, even Claude Code. Of course, this session was actually using Claude Code behind the scenes, so I mean, depends on how you're looking at it. But the visibility I can see with this little app I use. Of course, I use this app using Dev Nitro. This part isn't actually full-fledged Dev Nitro. This is was a prototype I have for the web stuff, and I plan on now pulling this into my full-fledged Dev Nitro app. But this was all created using Dev Nitro, and I found it to be extremely beneficial. Made me so much more productive. So I'm Chad Carter, helping .NET teams ship production apps faster. You already know what you're doing, so now go and ship it. And hey, if this helped, you know the drill. Plus, you may want to go ahead and share this with the dev that you like. And I'll see you in the next video.